If I asked you right now, lower class, middle class, or upper class, which one are you? Most people answer based on how they feel. Their paycheck, their neighborhood, the car they drive. But here's the problem. Wealth class has nothing to do with any of that. It comes down to one number, your net worth. And when you actually calculate that number, most Americans find out they're not where they think they are. I'm Professor Wealth, and today we're going to walk you through an entire wealth ladder from the bottom all the way to the top 10%. But we're not just describing each level, we're also running the real math on what it actually takes to move between them. And to do that, we're going to follow one person's numbers the entire way through. His name is Tyler. He's 34, makes $85,000 a year, decent job, decent apartment, drives a nice car, contributes a little to his 401k every month. Tyler feels like he's solidly middle class, but when you sit down and actually calculate his net worth, he's in the bottom 25%. And that's not an exaggeration. That's the math. Let me show you exactly why and exactly what it would take for Tyler to climb. Before we climb the ladder, one thing needs to be clear. Your income is not your wealth. Your net worth is. It's everything you own. Your home, savings, retirement accounts, car, investments, minus everything you owe, mortgages, car loans, student debt, credit cards. That single number determines where you sit on the wealth ladder. And it has nothing to do with your paycheck. The data we're using comes from the Federal Reserve Survey of Consumer Finances, the most comprehensive wealth study in the country. And some of these numbers are going to surprise you. Now let's meet Tyler and start climbing. Tyler is 34, marketing manager, earns $85,000 a year. After taxes, he takes home about $5,200 a month. He rents for $1,600, drives a 2022 sedan, contributes a little to his 401k. Tyler feels solidly middle class, but let's run his actual net worth. On the asset side, a car worth $22,000, $12,000 in a 401k, $3,000 in savings. That's $37,000 total. On the debt side, $18,000 left on the car loan, $26,000 in student loans. That's $44,000. 37 minus 44. Tyler's net worth is negative $7,000. He's not middle class. He's in the bottom 25%, and millions of Americans are in his exact position. Good income, negative net worth. Let's look at what that bracket actually means. Bottom 25%. Net worth under $23,000. This is where Tyler sits right now. The bottom quarter of American households have a net worth below about $23,000. And a huge chunk of this group actually has a net worth at or below zero. That means their debts completely wipe out their assets. Now here's what most people get wrong about this bracket. They assume it's all minimum wage workers or people without jobs. It's not. This bracket is full of people earning good money, 60, 70, 80,000 a year or more, who simply haven't built assets yet. The money comes in, the money goes out. There's a car payment, there are student loans, there's rent. There might be credit card debt from years of lifestyle creep. The income looks middle class. The net worth doesn't. For Tyler specifically, the culprit is clear. He has no home equity, which is the single biggest wealth builder for most American households. He has debt that exceeds his assets. And his retirement savings, while started, are far too small relative to his income. He's been earning a good salary for years, but the net worth needle has barely moved. This is the trap of this bracket. You can earn your way into a comfortable lifestyle without ever building actual wealth. Now let's look at what the next level up actually requires. Lower middle class, $23,000 to $179,000. To cross into this bracket, Tyler needs a net worth of at least $23,000. Right now, he's at negative $7,000. That means he needs to close a $30,000 gap. How? There are really only two levers: grow assets or eliminate debt. If Tyler aggressively attacks his student loans, throwing an extra $500 a month at them on top of minimum payments, he could eliminate them in about 3.5 years. Just doing that alone, while continuing to save modestly, would push his net worth past the $23,000 threshold. He'd cross into the lower middle class bracket. But here's the thing about this bracket. Most households here didn't get here by investing brilliantly. They got here by buying a house. Home equity makes up the majority of net worth for households in this range. A typical household here might look something like this. A home worth $300,000 with a mortgage of $240,000. That's $60,000 in home equity right there. Add in maybe $15,000 in retirement accounts and $8,000 in savings, subtract a $12,000 car loan, and you're looking at a net worth around $71,000. That sounds decent on paper, but look closer. Most of that net worth is locked inside the house. You can't spend home equity on groceries. You can't use it to cover an emergency unless you sell the house or take on more debt. The liquid cushion, the money you can actually access, might be $10,000 or $15,000 at most. So while this bracket is real progress compared to where Tyler started, the financial fragility is still very real. A job loss, a medical emergency, a major car repair, any of these can destabilize a household at this level quickly. The median, $193,000. Now we hit the middle, the exact midpoint of American household wealth. Half of all households have more than this, half have less. And the number is about $193,000. When most people hear that number, they have one of two reactions. Either they think it sounds too low, because headlines about the stock market and housing prices make it feel like everyone is wealthy, or they think it sounds too high because they're nowhere near it. Both reactions reveal the same thing. Most people have no idea where the middle actually is. At this level, the net worth composition starts to look like this. Maybe $120,000 in home equity, $50,000 spread across retirement accounts, $15,000 in savings. Some consumer debt like car loans or credit cards, but generally manageable. On the surface, the median household is doing all right. Steady income, decent home, some money saved. But here's the number that should bother you. If you strip out home equity, if you only count the money a household can actually access and use, the median liquid net worth is probably somewhere around $30,000 to $40,000. That's it. That's the financial cushion for half of America. And that number explains why one unexpected event, one layoff, one medical bill, one recession, can send a household spiraling. The median isn't broke, but the median isn't secure either. There's a meaningful difference. Upper middle class, $193,000 to $610,000. This is the bracket where something fundamental shifts. Below this level, most net worth is just home equity. People are building wealth almost accidentally just by paying their mortgage. But in this bracket, you start to see intentional wealth building. Retirement accounts are growing. Some households have taxable investment accounts. The asset mix starts to diversify. At the lower end of this range, say $250,000, the split might still be 70% home equity, 30% everything else. But by the time a household reaches $500,000, it's closer to 50-50. Half in the house, half in investments, savings, and other assets. That rebalancing is critical because investments grow, they compound, they generate returns. A house just sits there. It might appreciate, but you can't spend that appreciation without selling or borrowing. The people in this bracket tend to share certain habits. They're contributing consistently to retirement accounts, often maxing out a 401k, or at least contributing enough to get the full employer match. They're carrying debt, but it's strategic debt. A mortgage at a low interest rate, for example, rather than high interest credit card balances. They're thinking about money differently than the brackets below them. And here's the part that matters most. This bracket is the launch pad. Households that build steady, diversified growth here don't just inch forward, they accelerate. Because once your investments reach a critical mass, compound growth starts doing heavy lifting. The gap between 600,000 and a million feels enormous when you're looking up at it. But the math shows it takes far less time to go from 600,000 to a million than it took to go from 0 to 600,000. Compound growth is not linear. It's exponential. And it kicks in hard right around this bracket. Upper class, $610,000 to $1.72 million. Now we're in the top 25% of American households. And at this level, the financial picture looks completely different from everything below it. The biggest change? Investments now dominate net worth. At this level, probably around 70 to 75% of total net worth is in financial assets, retirement accounts, brokerage accounts, business equity, maybe rental properties. Home equity is still there, but it's a smaller slice of the pie. This is the inversion point. Below this bracket, your house is your biggest asset. Above it, your investments are. Let's run some real math on how people actually get here. If a household starts investing $1,000 a month at age 30 and earns an average 7% annual return, they'd have roughly $560,000 after 20 years. Add in a home with $200,000 in equity and they're sitting at $760,000 by age 50. That's firmly in this bracket. No inheritance required, no six-figure salary needed, just consistent investing over time. Now here's what's interesting about this bracket. Many of the people here are not who you'd expect. They're not flashy. They don't drive luxury cars or wear designer clothes. The research consistently shows that most households in this range built their wealth through disciplined saving and investing, not through high income alone. There's a reason the phrase high income, low net worth exists. Because plenty of people earning $200,000 a year never make it to this bracket, while people earning $90,000 do. It comes down to what you keep and what you invest, not what you earn. Top 10%. $1.72 million and above. At the very top of the ladder, we reach the top 10%. To enter this bracket, a household needs a net worth of roughly $1.72 million or more. At this level, wealth works fundamentally differently. A portfolio of $1.72 million invested and earning a modest 4% annually generates about $69,000 a year in passive income, without touching the principal. That's more than the median household income in the United States, generated entirely by investments. The money is literally working harder than most people do. Households in this bracket often have full financial independence or are very close to it. Their investments can sustain their lifestyle without a paycheck. That doesn't mean they all stop working, many don't, but the dynamic has changed. Work becomes a choice, not a necessity. Risk tolerance goes up. Opportunities multiply. You can invest in things that have higher potential returns because you're not dependent on every dollar. And even within this top 10%, the range is staggering. A household at $1.72 million is at the threshold, but the top 1% starts at roughly $12 to $13 million, and the top 0.1%, that's over $40 million. The wealth gap within the wealthy is just as dramatic as the gap between the wealthy and everyone else. But here's what matters for this video. You don't need to be in the top 1%. Reaching the top 10%, $1.72 million, is achievable for many households over a working lifetime if the math is done right. The problem is that most people never run the math. They just keep working and hoping. And hoping is not a wealth strategy. The age reveal. Everything I've shown you so far has one major blind spot. All of those brackets, the 23,000, the 193,000, the 610,000, those are for all American households lumped together. A 25-year-old and a 65-year-old. A new college grad and a retiree. Comparing them to the same benchmarks makes no sense. And this is where the real shock comes in. When you break net worth down by age group, the picture changes completely. The Federal Reserve data shows the median net worth for households under 35 is about $39,000. For 35 to 44, it jumps to $136,000. 45 to 54, $247,000. 55 to 64, $365,000. And 65 to 74, $410,000. The peak. Now let's go back to Tyler. He's 34 with a net worth of negative $7,000. Compared to the overall population, he's in the bottom 25%. But compared to his age group, it's even worse. The median for his age bracket is $39,000. He's not just below the median, he's $75,000 below it for people his own age. He's roughly at the 10th percentile for under 35s, meaning 90% of households his age have a higher net worth. But here's where this gets powerful. Take someone who's 45 years old with a net worth of 200,000. Against the overall population, they're right around the median. Feels fine, feels average. But against their age group, the median is 247,000. They're actually below the midpoint for their peers. And the 75th percentile for their age? That's 737,000. They're not close to the upper brackets for their generation. Now, flip it. Take a 28-year-old with a net worth of 154,000. Against the overall population, lower middle class, nothing special. But against their age group, that puts them at roughly the 75th percentile. They're ahead of 3 out of 4 households their age. Same number, completely different story. This is why age-adjusted benchmarks matter so much. The wealth ladder isn't one size fits all. Where you stand depends heavily on how old you are and how much compounding time you have left. A 30-year-old who's behind has decades to catch up. A 55-year-old who's behind has a much narrower window. The number matters, but the context around that number matters even more. So Tyler knows where he stands now. Negative 7,000. Bottom 25% overall. Roughly 10th percentile for his age. The question is, what happens from here? Let's run 3 scenarios with real numbers. Scenario 1, Tyler does nothing different. He keeps paying minimums on his student loans and his car. He keeps contributing the bare minimum to his 401k, about 2% of his salary. He keeps spending everything else. At this pace, his student loans will take 10 plus years to pay off. His 401k grows slowly. By 54, he might have a net worth around 120,000. That sounds like progress until you realize the median for 55 to 64-year-olds is 365,000. He'd still be well below average for his age. 2 decades of earning a solid income and barely moving the needle. That's the cost of coasting. Scenario 2. Tyler gets intentional. He cuts his discretionary spending and frees up $700 a month. He splits it. $400 toward his student loans above the minimum, $300 into his 401k. His student loans are gone in about 4 years. Once they're gone, he redirects that entire $400 into investing. Now he's putting $700 a month into investments. Let's say he buys a modest house at 38, building equity. At a 7% average return on his investments, by 54, his portfolio alone is worth roughly $350,000. Add in $150,000 in home equity and other assets, and Tyler's sitting around $500,000 in net worth. That puts him in the upper middle class bracket, and roughly at the 75th percentile for his age group. Same income, same starting point, just different choices. Scenario 3. Tyler gets aggressive. He finds ways to increase his income, a side project, a job switch, skill development, and pushes his earnings to $110,000 within 5 years. He lives on his original budget, which means his investable surplus balloons. He's now putting $1,500 a month into investments after eliminating debt in 3 years. He house hacks a duplex at 37, living in one unit and renting the other, which cuts his housing cost and builds equity simultaneously. By 54, Tyler's investment portfolio is around $700,000. His real estate equity is another $300,000. Total net worth, roughly $1 million. That puts him in the upper class bracket, top 25% of all households, and well above the 90th percentile for his age, from negative 7,000 to $1 million in 20 years. The math works. It just requires Tyler to actually do the math and then act on it. 3 paths, same starting point, same person, wildly different outcomes, and every single one of these scenarios is built on realistic numbers. No inheritance, no windfall, no lottery ticket. Just the compounding effect of intentional decisions over time. So let's come back to the question I asked at the very beginning. Lower class, middle class, or upper class? Which one are you? You probably had an answer in your head when this video started. Now you have the actual numbers to check it. And if where you stand isn't where you expected, that's not a failure. That's information. The most powerful financial advantage you can have isn't a high income or a lucky break. It's knowing exactly where you are and understanding the math it takes to get where you want to be. The wealth ladder isn't fixed. People move up it every single day, not by hoping, not by guessing, by running the numbers and making decisions that match. If you found this useful, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. We break down the real math behind the financial decisions that actually matter. I'll see you in the next one.